it's very easy to undereat on a carnivore diet. Your hunger signals are very well, they're just much more mild and subtle than when you're eating carbohydrates. When you eat carbohydrates, it just accents that hunger signal, and your body thinks you really need energy when you don't necessarily. And so you tend to have a stronger signal. So when that goes away, you have a much more subtle signal. And so people can undereat very, very easily. I did for the first few years that I was doing this. And I even noticed this. I was like, I haven't eaten in 3 days, 4 days. I'm working out like crazy. And like, I should really eat. But I remember thinking to myself, I'm like, I'm just not hungry. I'm just not hungry. But anytime I would eat, it tasted amazing and I enjoyed it. And that's when I came to realize that taste signal is a better marker. And so you have to relearn your hunger signals and going by taste. So if meat, fatty meat, especially, because as any chef will tell you, fat is flavor. If you're eating fatty meat and you're hungry, it will taste good. And so you're getting that positive feedback. But then eventually, once your body has enough of it, it actually will get less and less positive feedback until you get no positive feedback. And then you just feel like, I'm not really interested in eating this. And you just naturally stop. If you keep eating it, you'll actually get negative feedback and it'll actually start tasting bad and you won't want to do that. And some people, I have patients that have had portion issues and they're used to eating a large volume of food. And they say, I can't finish my meals. I get halfway through and I feel nauseous and I hate it. It just tastes disgusting. And I have to force feed myself. And of course, I explained to them, well, this is your body telling you that you were actually done halfway through the meal. Your meal was done halfway through your plate and that you should just, put it in the fridge and then come back to it another time.
Next one. What is your next mistake that people make when starting a carnivore diet?
Yeah, the next one would just be not eating enough fat in particular. That's a very common one. People will, maybe they'll be eating more meat and they'll be eating a lot more fat than they used to. But of course, we've been told for the last 40 years, 50 years, don't eat any fat. And so most people are eating a lot more fat than they used to eat, but it's not enough fat. And so they're thinking it couldn't possibly be that because, I'm eating so much more fat than I ever ate. So obviously I'm eating enough fat, but in fact, it's a lot more than that. So animals in the wild typically get around 70 to 80% calories from fat. Carnivores, because they eat animals with fat and they go for the fat first. But also herbivores, because that's actually what they break down fiber into. So they eat fiber, but it's actually their bacteria that digest and absorb the fiber. And as a byproduct, they release fat and protein. So even a gorilla and a cow that just eat plants, grass and leaves, they actually absorb fat and protein. And so we all need fat and protein. They get that, gorillas get around 70% calories from fat. Cows get even closer to 80% calories from fat. And again, so that's a lot more fat than people think, because we've been told to get like less than 20% calories from fat. Well, now you want more than that. And it's different for different people, but it's generally a lot more than people think. And so if people are tired or they're lethargic, especially if they're not having as good of workouts and they don't have the same energy levels that they used to on exertion, that can be a major reason why. And so just to think about that, maybe, am I eating enough fat?
That's why I have butter is gold, because butter, fatty meat, and all the fat is really important because that's what keeps you satiated.
Yeah, absolutely. And your body chases nutrients more than it chases calories. And fat is not just a calorie source. It is an essential nutrient. There are essential fatty acids that you have to have that you cannot get from anything except animal sources, and they come with a lot of fat soluble vitamins that you do need that are essential. So, you do need to eat these things. And so when you're getting these nutrients from the fat and from high nutrient dense foods, which meat is, and especially, there's different sort of qualities of meat as well. But when you're getting that high quality nutrition, you will be satiated for longer because your body has those nutrients. And so you stay more satiated, with better energy levels longer.
And what about the converse, that some people eat too much fat because they have an appetite for fat?
It's difficult to eat too much fat. From taste, things will just start not tasting as good. But also you have a sort of an overflow valve for fat anyway, because our body has a limited capacity for absorbing fat. So we make bile from our liver that's stored in our gallbladder, released into our intestine, small intestine, and that is what emulsifies fat and allows us to absorb it. You have a finite amount of bile. It's not made very quickly. It takes 24 hours to make around 800 milliliters of bile, and after that you're out. You run out. And so once you've run out, it's very difficult for your body to absorb that. It can do a little bit. It can, especially like medium chain fatty acids can get a bit of those, but it's actually a very, very small percentage of the fat can be absorbed without bile. So the vast majority of that will go out. And so the only way you could really overeat fat is, well, you can overeat fat in the sense you eat more fat than your body can absorb, but you're not going to absorb it really. So it's very hard to overabsorb fat. And you were, some people think that, well, maybe I have to take digestive enzymes and like ox bile or something like that. Then you can overabsorb fat. Absolutely. If you take ox bile, then that forces your body to absorb fat because now you're adding more bile to the mix. But I think that that's probably not a good idea because your body doesn't do anything on accident. I don't think it's making a random amount of bile just for a random amount of fat in return. Your body is very precise in what it's going to expend energy on and resources on. And so I think that it's making a calculated attempt to say, hey, we're going to have this much bile because we want this much fat in return. We want a return on our investment. So I don't think that that's random.
Hey guys, just want to take a second to thank our sponsor, Carnivore Bar. I don't promote many products because honestly, all you need to be healthy is to just eat meat. For those times that you're out hiking, road tripping, or stuck at work and you want a nutritious snack that is just meat, fat, and salt if you want it, the Carnivore Bar is a great option. So I like this product not because it's just pure meat, but also because I want the carnivore market to thrive as well. And the more we support meat-only products, the more meat-only products there will be available in the mainstream. So if this sounds like something you'd like to get behind, check it out using my discount code Anthony to get 10% off, which also applies to subscriptions, giving you 25% off total. All right, thanks guys.
So if you're taking in ox bile, then you're going to be forcing your body to absorb more fat than your body maybe would have wanted. Now, if you don't have a gallbladder and you're going to eat a big meal and all that sort of stuff, well, that's a personal choice in a special situation. But most people under most conditions don't need to do that. In order to sort of overeat fat and overabsorb fat, you'd have to take ox bile, or you'd have to eat so much excess fat that even that small percentage of excess fat or that small percentage of fat that was absorbed then becomes too much. And so you have to eat so much fat. So you're going to have most of this stuff is going to be going out, remember. And when you have an abundance of fat in excess, that you have to excrete, that comes out as loose stools. You get diarrhea. And so you're going to have like quite dramatic diarrhea and loose stools. And that's not going to be a very fun situation. And so you're going to look at that and be like, okay, I'm not going to just keep doing that. And if you just keep eating fat and keep eating fat, keep eating fat, you're going to keep having horrible, horrible experiences. And so you could do that, but it's very, very difficult. And you have to really fight against yourself to do it.
Okay, here's a question for you. So I have so many members on my community group that say, I am doing strict BBE and they have loose stools. They say, Rena, what can I do? So you're saying, don't take a lipase supplement, don't take the ox bile because it can make you over absorb fat now, and then you're going to eat more. So what can people do when they're first starting? If they're getting loose stools, how can they help with that?
Well, it depends. It depends on what causes it, because a lot of people do a carnivore diet differently. And so most people drink coffee, and most people keep drinking coffee when they go carnivore, and coffee is a laxative. And when you don't have this just ton of fiber blocking the pipes, that laxative effect is much more dramatic and more noticeable. And so maybe you're drinking the same amount of coffee, but now you're getting diarrhea, right? Also, artificial sweeteners, especially like sucralose and the different sort of sugar alcohols, those are definitely laxatives. But even stevia, monk fruit sweetener, they could act in that way as well. So those generally need to be taken out. But some people say, well, they're not carbs, so that's okay on a carnivore diet. It's like, well, it's not meat. and it's not animal. So I still wouldn't eat it, and it can act as a laxative, and so can coffee. So I would eliminate those two first. But if they're only on meat and only on water, right, or BBE, strict, not having anything else, the beef, butter, eggs, beef, butter, bacon, and eggs that Dr. Berry does, and they're only doing that, nothing else, then yes, I would say that you can just pull back on the fat. You just don't need to eat as much fat.
Now, many people follow a carnivore diet and they lose weight, but others don't lose weight or they hit a weight loss plateau. That's why I created the ultimate 4-week fat loss course to help you easily lose fat. All the links are in the description and you can get 20% off for a limited time. How about now? Carnivore mistake number 3.
It is probably coffee. Most people drink coffee and they keep doing this, and then they'll run into that sort of issue that we were just talking about with loose stools, or they might not have loose stools, maybe they have normal stools. What that can do, that can mask how much fat you're taking in. And so, if you have dry, hard stools, then that means your body's absorbing all the fat that you're taking in, and none is getting sent out, right? So you do have that cap, you do have that overflow valve, and after that, that's going to go out. It's going to go into your stools, and you're going to excrete it, and that's actually what's going to keep your stools soft. And so, you may go less often, but that's not constipation. Constipation is dry, hard stools, and Bristol stool chart. You can look that up. And so if there's fat in it, it'll dry out. It doesn't matter how long your colon is supposed to dry out. It's supposed to dehydrate this stuff. That's its job. And so, people say, well, you need to eat fiber so you can move this super quick so it doesn't dry out, all that much. You're literally fighting against your nature. So obviously that's incorrect. When you have excess fat, that keeps that in there. It's already dry. Fat repels water. And so it can stay in there for as long as you want. It will never get more dry than that, and it'll stay so. So it's that little excess fat that means, A, you're getting enough fat because you're absorbing as much as your body wants you to absorb. So I would consider that definitionally enough fat, and then a little extra, and then that's your clear objective marker that you're getting enough fat and your body's absorbing everything it wants to, and a little extra, right? So if you're constipated, you're having dry, hard stools, and you're drinking coffee, then you can actually speed things up, and it can move it through, and you think, oh yeah, I'm not having normal stools, and normal consistency stools, and so that's fine. But they have other problems, and they're not doing as well. Skin's not as good, or their hair's a bit dry and brittle. They don't have as much energy when they're working out and things like that. And even though they're drinking coffee, they don't have great energy levels, which can also be damaged by caffeine as well. That's what you have to start to think about. If you're eating enough fat and you're drinking coffee, you probably should have diarrhea, and so that can mask people that are under eating fat.
Coffee is the one thing. Sweetness, yeah, that's fine. Cream, yeah, that's fine. Coffee, it's just really, really addictive.
Yeah, it's a tough one, but one thing I tell people is that, some people like the ritual, they like making it, they like the smell, they like going to coffee shops, and there's that social experience with it, which is fine. Hospitals run on coffee, right? Everybody, nurses and doctors and everyone, if you want to, be nice to your team, you bring coffee. When you're meeting up on a break, you meet for coffee. It's always coffee. You bring, if you want to bring like a treat for the nurses on the ward, it's either chocolates or coffee. And so it's very much a coffee driven industry. I don't drink coffee, but I still go to coffee. I still buy people coffee if they want it, if they choose to do that. They choose to do that to themselves. And I just drink water, so I still have that social aspect. I'm still there and still enjoying it. If that's okay, and you really just want the actual caffeine, you want the kick, then what I suggest is trying my caffeine tablets, caffeine pills, and that at least eliminates out all these other things that are in coffee that aren't necessarily what you want, all the diuretic sort of effects and pro-inflammatory factors that will make you sore. I drank 1 cup of black coffee. I was sore for 2 days. I'm like, I don't want to be sore ever. So, coffee's not really for me. And so you can try that with caffeine and at least have that. And then you'll find that actually your energy levels are better overall throughout the day if you don't have any caffeine. And because you might have that big jump in the morning, like, oh, I feel great, this is great. But then you have that lag and drag, and then you kind of feel gross. You kind of feel like you're withdrawing from a drug, and you just feel junky, and you are. That's because that's what it is. It is a drug. And so, you'll find that you have better energy levels overall. You sleep much better, which means you'll have better energy the next day if you avoid these sorts of things.
Hey everyone, really happy to announce a new sponsor for the show and for everybody down in Australia, Stockman Steaks, who are delivering high quality grass-fed and finished pasture-raised beef and other meats, flash frozen and vacuum sealed to your door, something that I've been enjoying a lot of myself recently as well. They also have a great range of specialty items such as high-fat keto mince and carnivore beef and organs mince with liver, kidneys, and beef heart as well. So use code Chaffee today for a free order of beef mince or another specialty gift along with your order at stockmansteaks.com.au, and I'll see you over there. Thanks, guys.
So I would love to know from everyone watching, have you quit coffee? Are you doing coffee? Does anyone feel better from like not having coffee, or is it something that you just can't give up? So comment down below, because as you know, with Dr. Chaffee, he's just all about not having coffee. I'm not quite there yet, but maybe you can inspire all of us that are coffee drinkers to get there. But Dr. Chaffee, what is carnivore mistake number 4 that we're making?
Well, I think a major one is keeping in some sort of sweetener, like the monk fruit sweetener or the stevia or the sugar alcohols, things like that. Usually the coffee and sweeteners go hand in hand. Usually someone's still drinking coffee and, well, I don't want to put sugar in it, so I'll put this sweetener in it as well. Or maybe, in whole, heavy cream or something like that. They always ask me, it's like, well, I do have heavy cream in my coffee, is that okay? And I was like, well, heavy cream's fine, coffee's not great, and so, that's my main thing is I think it's as important what not to eat as what to eat. You're eating meat, you're getting fat, those are very important nutrients, those are vital, you need those. But there are other things that just cause harm, and those things are plants and fungi. And so, they all have different sorts of defense chemicals and different ways and means of protecting themselves, to varying degrees. But, if you're looking for optimal health and you're looking to feel as good as you possibly can, then, you do want to sort of eliminate these things down to just meat and water, maybe salt to taste if that's your predilection. But, the main thing is to try to eliminate out all of these other things. And I definitely think artificial sweeteners are in that category. I think that specifically for weight loss and fat loss, because I think fat loss is a better way of saying it, because you may I lost 23 pounds just ditching vegetables and increasing the amount of feed. I quintupled my calories and lost 23 pounds by ditching spinach, kale, and broccoli. That's all I was eating: spinach, kale, and broccoli, and like lean meat, and I wasn't eating that much. I rapidly or dramatically increased my calories and the amount of meat I was eating, and just stopped the greens. I lost 23 pounds in 10 days. But then I stayed exactly the same. I didn't change my weight. I weighed the same for months after that, but I just started visibly transforming. I started stacking on muscle and shredding fat. And so I was replacing one tissue with another. So I was getting rid of fat, but I was putting on muscle. It just happened to be exactly equivalent as far as weight was concerned, which was interesting. And
very interesting. I'm sure that everyone wants that. Like, that's the ideal, that you just cut out some vegetables. Don't need, who wants vegetables? Who in their right mind is going to say, I want to eat kale, spinach, all the rest of it? It's conditioned to us to think that's green and that's good. But wouldn't we just love to lose like 23 pounds, jack up and have like beautiful muscle? That's what we all want.
Yeah, no, I don't think there's anyone who wants to eat vegetables that doesn't have Stockholm syndrome, is suffering from some sort of like serious brainwashing and conditioning. But yeah, so sweeteners, I think that those are a major one that inhibit fat loss in particular. And you hit your limbic system, you get this sweet taste, and this can signal your body to think that there's sugar coming. And there's conflicting studies on that, but there are studies showing that you can get rebound hypoglycemia and an insulin spike from eating any sort of sweetener, that doesn't have sugar in it. So, either way, this isn't something that even existed 50,000 years ago or 100,000 years ago or even 100 years ago in a lot of cases. And so you can't really argue that this is something that we need. This is something essential. This is something that belongs in our food, because it didn't exist. When I talk to people and they say, I really like carnivore because I felt so good on it, but it really, didn't work out for me. And I asked them what they mean by that. And they say, well, I felt really good. I had great energy, mental clarity was wonderful. And I reversed all my autoimmune issues. Those were all improving. My diabetes was getting better, but I just wasn't really losing weight. So I guess it didn't work for me. It really sucks because I felt so much better in so many other ways. My first thought is, well, it actually sounds like it worked really well for you. Actually, a lot of the times I ask them, okay, what exactly are you eating? And quite often they'll think, well, I'm just eating meat and water. I'm doing carnivore. But it's like, okay, are you only eating meat and only drinking water? There's no sweeteners, no coffee, no this, no that, nothing. And quite often they'll say, okay, well, I am having coffee and I'm putting more fruit sweetener in it, and I'm doing this, and I'm doing that. And it's just like, okay, so there's other things, and very often the people that specifically have problems with their weight and fat loss are still incorporating artificial sweeteners. Something that people may think that they're very, very limited, and they're like, I have no options, I have no choices, and they get pretty sad about it, and they get sort of worn down and beaten down, and think like, oh, I just can't eat anything, I'm limited.